we're talking about matters of diversity and recognition, and our next guest, Sukhjit Kaur Khalsa, she said it's pronounced like salsa, and I was scared that's what I ended up saying, came to prominence with her appearance on Australia's Got Talent. She describes herself as a spoken word artist, workshop facilitator, actor, producer, MC, and humanitarian. That's a self-description. It's not unflattering. It's very nice. As a young first-generation Australian Sikh woman, she uses her experiences to question conventional notions of Australian national identity and to challenge racism. Her poetry tackles some core social issues like gender inequality, identity issues, and feminism. She made it to the finals of the National Australian Poetry Slam. I'll come back to that in a moment. In 2014, she's a first-generation Australian Sikh storyteller. Her writing predominantly focuses on stories of the Sikh diaspora family, cultural confusions, and gender. She's still discovering the art form of slam poetry, which is good because I've not yet discovered it. You reveal it. And she moved from Perth, where she lived and where her education was, and currently resides in what she calls the big city of Melbourne, but she's done us the honour of visiting the small city of Bendigo. Please, Sukhjit.
Nicole's getting tired, you know how she feels. Martin's about to fly, you know how he feels. Tim's looking fine, you know how he feels. It's a Sunday on an autumn day, here in Bendigo, and we're feeling good. Dun-dum, dun-dum, dun-dum. That was a test to see if you guys would click or not. Bendigo, what's going on? Click for me. Far out. The reason why I'm getting you to click is so you can get warmed up, because in spoken word we do a thing where when a performer's up here and they're fully vulnerable as possible and sharing their story and their truth, they want to know that the audience also gets what they're saying. So when I perform 2 poems today, you can stop clicking now. When I perform 2 poems today, I would really appreciate if you click when you feel a line, or when you feel anything, even throughout the panel actually. If you feel something, let's just click all day. Why not? And now I'm going to be really annoying. And I'm going to be that teacher that you hated in high school, and I'm going to get you all to come as close as possible to the front. Because for spoken word, that's right, get up, come on. Because for spoken word, it's a very intimate discussion. And for me, while you guys are getting up, I'm going to share a story about World Vision. Because when I was in Year 4, Tim, I was actually just sitting here and I remembered where my love for justice and my love for international aid and development and my love to change the world actually began in Year 4 when I did the 40-hour famine, and I had a teacher called Mr. Burns, and he was so passionate about World Vision, and he tried to instill that in all of us. And I was that one student in class who was a nerd and really picked it up and really dedicated. It was an honour to meet you, Tim, and to know that, thank you, I am who I am because of people like Tim. So I'm not here to talk about Mr. Burns, unfortunately. I'm sure he would love that. But I am here to talk about how storytelling, and thank you so much for moving to the front, I appreciate that. I know how annoying it is when people tell you to do that, when your seat is nice and warm. And I'm sorry if my backs are towards you guys. If you guys are cool with that, that's fine. So how spoken word poetry and storytelling is a way for me to talk about justice and a way for me to express myself, because my brother's a lawyer and it's very hard to argue with him. So that's why I had to find something new to argue with, and I chose storytelling, because when we talk about statistics, when we talk in Tony Abbott's voice, a lot of young people don't listen. And for a way for me to get the human connection and bring it back home is to let people into my life and into my shoes and into my world. And I feel that if we're doing it honestly, if we're doing it truthfully, and we're doing it with love, there's nothing that can go wrong with that. So the first piece I'm going to do is called To Advance Australia Fair, and before I do it, I thought as a little exercise we would learn how to pronounce my name, because it's all about, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in a school where every time the teacher read out my name she would freak out and just kind of pause. So I was the pause, and I knew when it paused it was my turn to put my hand up. I'm here, miss, I'm here. So for all the exotic people maybe in this room or maybe in the world, let's do something for them. I told myself that every time I perform, I'm going to do this because it's really important to break down that barrier of difference and really clap out the syllables in my name. So, my name's Sukhjit, and we're going to, when I say Sukh, you say Jeet. Is that possible? Possible? Perfect. So, when I say Sukh, you say Jeet. Sukh! Sukh! That's not loud enough. I know it's Sunday. I had to wake up at like 6:30 and drive. Now, you from Melbourne, so I think you guys need to spruce it up, Bendigo, and we're going to get some energy out of you. Is that possible? So, when I say Sukh, you say Jeet. Sukh! 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 If you're not in Australia, where the bloody hell are you? Remember the bingle jingle? Inviting the world to mix and mingle? Where a fair go was your welcome mat? Unless you're of caramel descent, then ain't nobody got time for that. You see, rocking up for my first job at Coles was like a scene on Border Patrol. Her plastic tag read Dorothy, glasses corded she hawked. Do you have a visa, honey? Caught in a truck's light, I was a squirrel digging for my MasterCard. Caught at a job interview with a question off guard. She repeated again, this time slowly, so I could follow. We don't want no illegal workers here in Australia, honey. Bravo! What makes you Australian? Is it a Southern Cross tattoo or wombat stew crumbled with a Dunkaroo? As if my Aussie passport is temporary, or my birthplace a mistake. For all you Dorothys out there, allow me to firmly iterate, for those who've come across the seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. Upon hearing these lines, do you think of a time when Australia's learnt to share and care and dare to wear its heart on its face, fully aware that most of us in this place are far from fair, but brown and black and slow to attack, but quick to embrace a warm Australia, a handmade Australia. Not a shooing Australia when idiots spit a sama at my brother. I'm confused as to why. On Australia Day, when the night sky spews bigot bile, I'm left traumatised. When a teen rips off my uncle's turban, I'm an enraged flame of pain and shame and sorrow. For tomorrow, when a hooning ute throws a rotten peach at my dad and screams, "Go home, you bloody terrorist!" I plead to you, where the bloody hell are we? My people, the Sikhs, yeah, we have an identity, just like you and him and her, like Prue and Jim and Fleur. You see this hair? It's long and preened and seen. It stands for me and my choices. You'll see that turban. It belongs here in suburban Melbourne to Perth. It says, hey mate, we're all equal on earth. And Dorothy, if it's really a competition, well maybe I'm more Aussie than you. If Aussie means equality, because that turban, it's noble from start to end. It's worn to defend you. And you, 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 and you. You can trust me, it says. Sikhs in turbans came here in 1860 with camels and carts and courageous hearts, and look at the maxi taxi. We're still driving and steering the country, in offices, in hospitals, and even on stage, to advance Australia fair page by page. So bring on the slurs and curs and scars and burrs. Take it for the team. Bring the racists into high beam. Let them spew their poison in my direction, so another won't have to cop this disaffection. Shut the gate on the hate state. So when people tell me and my family to go home to where we came from, I'll reply with a smile, tongue-in-cheek, mate, we've been right at home for the past 200 years. I'm not the one that's a freak. I'm fully Sikh. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to get some water.
Here you go. There you go.
I appreciate the clicks. I've heard some. That's a little kick up the bum to everyone click as well. My name's Sukhjit. It actually translates to winner of peace. So already, when I was pushed out of the bosom, I already had massive shoes to fill. So I'm not Rosa Parks, I'm not Nelson Mandela, but I can try. So I did a bit of international aid and development in university, thinking I would work in the United Nations, and so did every 500 other people when we rocked up to our first day of university. And then I would Google United Nations job descriptions, and when I read them, they went on for like 10 pages, and the criteria that was needed, I was like, does that mean I can only make change when I'm like 50? Does that mean I just sit there in my room and watch some Netflix, and then when I turn 50, I'm like, ping, okay, now I can make change? And then I was like, no. I think that, I don't know how many young people there are in the room. There's a couple of high school students and some university people, I can tell. And I don't know if you guys experience this, but a lot of people in society tend to think that the only way to make change is to have $1 million. And when I'm Angelina Jolie, I will be able to adopt every child in the world, and I would have made change. Thank you so much. I can't wait. But I didn't have $1 million. I don't even know how to make $1 million. And then I was like, okay, well, once I hit a very high position, that's when I can actually make change. And in between, I won't do anything. But then I think as young people, we actually can. And I'm 21 years old, and I'm such a nana, and everyone assumes I should be raving right now. And people get really shocked when, I had a lot of interviews after Australia's Got Talent, and a lot of people would say, oh, that's a lot of things to think about for a 21-year-old. I'm like, well, why isn't it? I think that's the way you go about doing life, and the way I want to go about doing life. Thank you very much. And the way I want to go about doing life and making change, I have lots of fun doing what I do, and I get to, a lot of the time people would say, your 9-to-5 job is going to be so boring. Oh, it's a work life. Wait for that, Sukhjit. And I'm like, I was like, no one tells you can actually love what you do, and you can choose a career that you love. I'm sure you love what you do.
I do.
And that's what we need. So I'm just ranting right now, but when it comes to spoken word is pretty much ranting anyway. When it comes to making justice, so I come from the Sikh faith. There was a bit of that in the poem that you just heard. So coming from the Sikh faith, we are very much about the justice. Now, the reason is because we've also been through a lot of trauma and genocide in India and been persecuted for our faith. So that has binded us, and we've all spread throughout the world. And my parents chose Australia, and they came to Australia, and I was born there in Perth. And I feel that if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for my faith, if it wasn't for my upbringing, I wouldn't have the values that I would have. And sure, that poem was about being a Sikh girl. Sure, that poem was about the incidents, all very true. Everything I write about is all verbatim, so it's all word for word what people have said. So watch out all of the ex-boyfriends who say stuff and it ends up in like Adele-style poetry. So all this, that happened to be a Sikh narrative. But what that represents is that a lot of migrants that come to Australia, they do face a lot of injustices. And, you know, I feel that having an identity, yeah, I just look like a hairy Indian, but look, my brother and dad, who have a turban and beard, especially not after 9/11, have copped a lot of crap. And that's not, and I don't think that's fair, and that's what drives me, and that's where the passion comes from. So, yeah, that's one side of the poetry, and then there's also the feminist type of poetry that I do as well, which is about being a woman. I do acknowledge that I have a lot of privilege in this country. I'm very lucky. I've been given all these opportunities, but I feel like I don't know my purpose yet, but I'm finding my purpose, and a bit of that purpose is to give voice to the voiceless, because there's a lot of women out there that can't actually speak about certain topics. So, you know, I feel like I don't think the system is made in the favour of the woman. So when it comes to reporting rape or sexual abuse or domestic violence, if I got raped right now and I went to the police office, I'm not sure how much. I also recently learnt through working with victims of rape and domestic violence that there's a lot of shame in a lot of communities when it comes to that, already as a woman, and then you add that cultural stuff on top of it, and it's just like, who in that moment will feel like, yes, I'm going to go to the police now? They're trying to deal with all their mental stuff, and then if they choose to report a couple of months later, then what happens? Then I don't think that, you know, you can prove this type of stuff. Where is the semen? Where's the actual bruises? Was it, maybe we're just going to blame you? And so anyways, I'm ranting again. This next piece is about, actually, you know what, I'm going to get you guys to close your eyes. Can we all close our eyes to fully enjoy this piece? How long have we got?
We've got 6 minutes.
Perfect, okay, cool. I'll get you to close your eyes, and then we can, I always start 20 stories and never finish them, so when we do the panel stuff, you can ask anything you want, an open book. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you, the reason why, just let me keep talking and close your eyes. I want you to visualise that you are in my shoes, because I think when it comes to empathy, when it comes to practicing empathy, we sometimes forget that in order to step into someone else's shoes, we need to take off our own shoes, we need to take off our own filters, our own judgments. So when it does come to, you know, the current Islamophobia in Australia, or the refugees, or the Syrian refugees like Tim was talking about, or when it comes to international aid and development and putting funding in aid, international aid, it's very hard sometimes as Australians, because we're very lucky to put ourselves in other people's shoes. So I think for this next piece, I'd like you to put yourself in my shoes and experience the day in the life of a long-haired girl. Hands up if you watch the news every night and can't decide on fight or flight or might is right. Hands up, everybody, and wave them in the air like you just care. He told me, my bro, leave this earth better than at your birth when you go. So I look at these hands, 2 brown hands. One day I heard my mum say, my name's Sukhjit, it means winner of peace. So I thought I had to be a political feature, a spiritual preacher, anything but this hairy-legged creature. But then I saw the hands. My big sister said to me, hold my hand, band, baby, and look with me. When you gaze at this country, what do you see? Do you see stats or spirits, boundless plains or borders? When you gaze at the stars, do you see Southern Crosses or 7 Sisters? My hands have hope. So don't protect me from the world, Papa. My hands like yours are for working, Papa. Come build with me an empire of empathy. Friends, hold my hand and walk the streets with me. Do you see the superheroes every day, white, black and grey, curly and straight, giving their time of day, helping me on my way, laughing and having their say, teaching their kids like I'll teach mine to tend and mend and spend the time on another, because a stranger is not always danger. So wave those hands, wave hello, shake those hands, shake them off, yo. Use those hands to touch, not type or like or emoji wink, you're alright. You'll feel the love and compassion no text can provide. Take a stand, hands, they're yours. I might be the wordsmith, but with your applause, action this poetry and find your cause. Join this girl from Perth on a mission to leave this earth better than we found it. at our best. Thank you so much for having me and letting me rant, and we'll talk soon.